Why is it that every time I look away from this world, there's another fission reactor? They're breeding like rabbits. Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 22 of Nuclear Earth Reirradiated, where I indeed have a couple more fission reactors than last video. Every now and then I just find that my fuel is starting to backlog, and when that happens, I guess it's, well, time to build another fission reactor. That's kinda how this happened. But hey, the chunk is still safe to stand in, so be it. Anyways, I've also completed the induction matrix for all of these reactors, and I'm a little surprised it's not full yet. But there are 4 ultimate induction cells inside, like the top tier ones. So there's 820 billion RF storage in here. I guess that's a lot of energy. Compared to a Draconic Evolution tier 7 ball, this is more than a tier 6, I think, less than a tier 7. A tier 7 is just about 2.1 trillion, so it's about a third of a tier 7 ball. But anyways, yeah, it's a lot of energy storage. Cool. The other thing we did at the very end of last episode was make a whole bunch of RTGs. I have 2,000 of them now. When I was crafting like the last couple reactors up there, I figured, you know what, let's just like make another 1,000 of these. And these are actually quite cheap. I mean, relatively cheap. Like, there's nothing in here that, you know, oh no, it's going to use 1,000 boron, and yeah, there's nothing in here I'm going to miss. So, cost-wise, quite cheap, which is why I made the 2,000 of them. And then it's occurred to me, each one of these is a tile entity. They also probably have to be placed vertically so that I can like eat all the radiation that they produce. But do I really want to place 2,000 tile entities for one, or let's see, 400 RF a tick each, so what, that's 800k RF a tick? Like, no, not really. I'd rather have my tick rate. So we've made 2,000 RTGs. They're just gonna sit in here, I think, because I don't want to incur the lag that they produce. With useless RTGs out of the way, then let's get on to today's project. I would like to make ourselves the luck modifiers to further speed up our void miners. So I had to add the extra reactors because our tier 5s were outproducing the ability for our previous reactors to burn off the fuel. But that also means that now when I upgrade these with void or with luck upgrades, they get about 3 to 4-ish times faster. And we'll need to upgrade our fission reactors again. But honestly, at this point, fission reactors are super cheap. Like, even the big ones, right, that's somewhere around 1,500 reactor cells. Look at that. Like, I have 3,000 in storage. If I want to craft 2,000 more of these, bam, cheap. It's a little bit slow because like my alloys and stuff have to be processed, but end of the day, it's, you know, 10 minutes of crafting to make a 15 by 15 by 15 cryolattice reactor. No big deal. All right, so how many luck upgrades do I need? I think it was 10 per, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Yeah, I don't need the accuracies, but since I'm energy positive anyways, I figured we'll leave them in for now. But all right, so that means we need to make 20 luck modifiers, and the only ingredient here that we honestly don't have access to yet is Dawnstone. 20 neutronium is expensive, but we can do it. 20 triple compressive emerald is probably expensive, but we can do it. So yeah, Dawnstone then is made in, well, we make the fluid, and then how you solidify the fluid is really up to you. The only reasonable way to make it is by mixing it in the Embers mixer. So let's get into the Embers questline. Let's see. Step 1, let's make the Ancient Codex. I hope we have the ore thing to make it. It's dropped by the Embers mobs out in the world, but I tend to not kill them because they have like 30 million hit points. But perhaps we've stumbled into one along the way somewhere. Exactly one even. All right, good. I hope we don't need any more than that. Anyways, this book, oh, by default, it tells you everything now. Maybe that's a setting. It used to be that you had to go into each of these tabs and then like click the thing and be like, yep, I read you. Yep, I read you, for it to tell me more. All right, then. Don't type E there. So to get started, in fact, instead of following the book, I'm going to follow the quest line because that probably is easier to understand. All right, we have to set up an ember board. This is how we dig the ember fuel, which I think are just called embers. Yeah, ember crystal and ember shards. These come out of the bedrock, and a pretty easy recipe. Because it needs to be placed down on bedrock, I'm down here by my Grains of Infinity thing, which I've emptied out somewhat recently, so there's only like half a crate in there. But anyways, just place it down. It takes a lot of space. Then you have to give it some fuel to run. I believe it can run off any furnace fuel, maybe not the ones that give you a bucket back, but hey, get out of my inventory. The easiest way to work with it is just to IO through that one port, but if you're using a mod pack that doesn't have like conduits that can IO through the same, you can't do input and output through the same face, I think there's like an extension you can use to the bore, but I forget exactly. Anyways, as soon as you jam furnace fuel into there, it just starts running. So we will insert it into our ender chest. I think this ender chest just hooks directly into the ME system. So anything that goes into here just gets ingested. Good news is the underbore is, well, for what good? For certain values of good, the underbore is pretty slow, so it's not going to clog up our ME system. Anyways, let's not a teleport here, so in the future I don't have to come down the stairs anymore. And stop giving me grains of infinity. The next quest here calls for an Ember activator and some Ember moving things. So the Ember activator is kind of, think of it like a furnace generator, I guess, for the Ember mod. It takes those Ember crystals that we're digging out of the bedrock and turns them into energy. I don't actually know what they call the energy. I think Ember is the name of the energy. Look, the word Ember shows up a lot in this mod. I crafted some other items like the melter, copper cell, and laid out an area to do the Ember stuff. Looking in this pack, it doesn't look like we have to do much with Embers, which I consider a good thing. I'm not the biggest fan of the mod, but hey, we'll see what it has to offer. To start us off, then, we have to use our Ember activator to, I guess, activate our Embers. I'm going to place it floating off the ground here. The reason will be evident later, but there's an upgraded version that has some placement requirements, so we'll get ready for that. And then into it, we will pipe our Ember. So we have just a little bit. I think what I should have done is actually, there's an item called an Ember gauge or something along those lines. Ember gauge, this thing, atmospheric gauge. This will tell me how much, let's just make one now. This will tell me how much Ember is in a chunk. And I think some chunks are richer than others. Actually, you know what, forget it. That Ember bore will be fast enough. Even if it's not completely optimal. So yeah, well, we'll just deal with the fact that I probably put it in a low Ember chunk. Whoops. So ME interface supplies the Ember items in the form of crystals and shards to be melted down. Pipe that into here. And I think that's literally all it takes to turn on the Ember activator. There we go. We can then put a Ember dial on one side of it. Put it here just to read how much Ember is in the thing. From there, we'll transfer that energy up to a copper cell. So that's kind of a battery. Well, it's in every way a battery for Ember. But it has a nice side effect that it also acts as an Ember splitter. So right now, our only access to Ember transport are these emitters and receptors, which are 1-to-1. That is one sender to one receiver. If we have to split the Ember, which we probably want to do at some point, we have to use a copper cell for that. We do get better access to Ember splitting mechanisms later, though. So anyways, receiver on the cell, emitter on the activator. I don't know if it goes on the top or one of these sides. To link them, you take your Tinker Hammer, you shift right-click the emitter, and then right-click the... Wait, shift right-click the receiver, right-click the emitter, I think. It might be the other way around. I don't know why the order matters, because it's quite clearly what is a sender, what is a receiver, because they're literally named that, but whatever. And then give a redstone signal to the emitter. Yeah, I guess I was right. So you're listening for ding dong, not dong ding. That's always been one of my complaints about Embers. It's never clear if you do things right or not. Anyways, that sends our Ember up to the cell. If we want, we can use one of the faces of the cell to read its fullness. Alright, so next step towards making Dawnstone is to, in our... there we go. I need to make the fluid that's made in a mixer supplied with copper and gold. Instead of melting the copper in a Embers melter, like the intended way, I find it, if possible, it's easier to melt copper with another mod smelter. So in this case, we'll use a Nuclearcraft melter, because then I don't have to deal with this stupid ember moving. So I set up a couple of Nuclearcraft melters, and we'll use these to, well, melt. Mixing the molten copper and gold together, however, does require the Embers mixer. There's none of the technological mixers can pull off this act of magic, I guess. The lever also goes on the other side. So anyways, we send some ember into the mixer centrifuge. It only accepts ember in the top. Uh-oh, wait, I didn't actually link it. What order was it again? It's receiver to sender. Yeah? Okay, good. Wow, this thing is laggy too. Whatever, we deal with it. Maybe it's time to go down to fast graphics. It's still laggy. Alright, well anyways, to actually mix stuff in it, you have to pipe the things to be mixed into the bottom tanks. So the 4 sides of the bottom represent 4 different tanks. So we're gonna do something like that. Put one fluid on brown, on blue, doesn't matter which goes where. One on brown. Oh, since I was clicking through brown, I hope I didn't fill that with the wrong fluid. Anyways, that should do the thing. You are quite clearly not filling. Probably because I piped copper into that port. Yeah, that's what it was. I just broke and replaced the mixer centrifuge. Now we can see we get molten dawnstone out the top port. Once we have the fluid, we can also solidify it via the Embers way. That's using like the stamper and stuff. We might have to do this later anyways, because there's some things that the stamper can make that we can't solidify other ways. Let's see, I think that recipes are listed under the stamper, apparently. So right now we just need the ingots, which can be solidified through just about any system. But if we need to make, yeah, stuff like the asbestos, and maybe it's just that we can't make without the stamper. But for now, stamper, go away. I don't want to deal with you. So we'll use just a, what's it called? One of these Nuclearcraft machines, an ingot former. The ingot former doesn't take energy. I always forget this, so I suppose the energy upgrades in it are probably superfluous. Speed upgrades still matter. Anyways, it hardens dawnstone into dawnstone ingots, which we store in a bin. Now that I have this, we can upgrade our Ember activator to something slightly better, and that is the... I don't remember what it's called. This thing. Pressure refinery. I believe the pressure refinery is the same shape and size of the Ember activator. It's just that to get a boost from it, you have to do a couple more things. So you place it on top of a metal block of some sort. I believe there's like different tiers. I know copper is among the best. Surround that with lava source blocks. Maybe flowing blocks works too, but I don't know. Lava's easy enough to come by. In addition to pumping ember into it, it also needs water, and I think it takes water in the bottom block. It's evidenced by the fact that there is a tank there. But I'm going to hook this up to my water network. Everything, like all of these fluid laser relays, are just hooked up to water. And this turns those ember items into ember energy more efficiently. Maybe if I put a dial on it, it'll tell me how much. Yeah, there we go. It has a 3x production efficiency modifier, which just means we get 3 times as many ember energy out of each unit of ember crystal, which I guess is a good thing. And with that, I think we've done as much embers as we have to do right now. There might be some other late game reason to come back to it, but for now, this thing will just passively make dawnstone, and as long as I have a supply of, I think in here, copper and gold ingots. I could actually switch them over to ore as well, I suppose. They can melt ore down. Like it's an ore doubler as well, the melter, but whatever. This thing just passively makes dawnstone blocks until this bin fills up. In fact, I'm even going to upgrade that bin to advanced tier. So that holds like 8,200 items. That should be enough to make these upgrades, right? It's what? 8 times 9, 72 per. So 20 of them is 1,400 dawnstone. Awesome. So let's go ahead and work on encoding the recipe for this luck modifier. This has to be made in the extreme crafting table, and it uses neutronium ingots. Neutronium is exceptionally radioactive at 81 rads per tick. I do not want to hold this for the, 1 second or probably even less it would take for us to get it into the extreme crafting table. That would, like 10 of those for 1 second is 8,000 rad. That's, I don't know exactly how large our bar is. I think it's like 10,000-ish, maybe a bit more. Point is, it's basically enough to murder me. So I would like to teach Applied Energistics how to use the extreme crafting table so that I don't have to touch neutronium. For that, enter packaged auto. So if you've watched the OmniFactory series, you'll probably be pretty familiar with this mod, but packaged auto can... its core thing is that it will create these things called recipe packages, and then these can be atomically transferred around to like move items from point A to point B, and then they can be unpackaged, and there's an add-on for it called Package Avaricia that can automate the Extreme Crafter. So to use it, we're going to need a packager, a package recipe encoder, and an unpackager, and an extreme package crafter. Of these components, only the extreme package crafter I think has any meaningful cost to it. 24 nether stars. I mean, that's not even a huge cost. We'll deal with it. You can technically have up to you can trivially have up to 6 extreme package crafters running in parallel to speed up the crafting, but for now I think the nether star cost will keep us down to just using 1 or 2. Most of the components in package auto are first-rate Applied Energistics aware components, so all you have to do is plug them into your ME system. The packager then gets its power from the ME system, and it'll happily register its own recipes, which is wonderful. Then next to that, well, the recipe encoder can go literally anywhere. It is not an Applied Energistics component, so we'll put it here by our terminals. It's basically a pattern terminal. What I typically do is that I take 2 recipe holders so that we can have 1 in the packager and 1 in the unpackager, because both machines need a package recipe holder. So what we're trying to craft now is this recipe. It is a Avaricia crafting recipe, so we want to set the mode to extreme and just straight up import that. There we go, and it happens to, it understands the craft. Hit save, and it'll save those recipes into this package recipe holder. Now, the other modes, processing mode, you can literally store anything in here. This is akin to Applied Energistics processing mode, right? Where it doesn't care about the process, it just cares about the inputs and the outputs. So with this, you can encode inputs that take up to 81, or processing recipes that take up to 81 stacks of input and produce up to 9 stacks of output, which is pretty nice. The other mode is ordered, which is similar to regular processing mode. However, it will guarantee that you get your items in a given order. I think it's reading order, so left to right, top to bottom, which is useful for automating some things that are very sensitive to the order that you get your items in. But for now, we don't need any of those fancy bells and whistles. All right, so make sure this is set to the right mode. Save it. Put 1 into the packager, and as soon as we put that in, we should see that we can actually craft this recipe package. So this is an intermediate item that package auto uses. It basically takes the 9 items and jams up to 9 items and jams it into 1 item. That's how it does up to 81 items as input, right? If you use these intermediates, and each intermediate can hold 9 real items in them, you can put the intermediates in here and have 9 to 1 output. That's for if you don't wish to have the unpackager automatically register its recipes. But for now, I do. So the unpackager, I guess we'll put it over here because I have space here. Just place the unpackager down. I believe it'll accept RF directly. That's if you don't want to use it as part of your Applied Energistics system. But since I do, it'll get energy through the Applied Energistics as well. Plug it in. Give it its recipe holder, and that'll also power the package crafter. Is again a first-rate Applied Energistics aware component, so it can be powered through the ME system, and then that's it. We're ready to go. If I now come and look at the package here, we can no, we don't look at that. Sorry, we look at luck modifier, we should see that a recipe is automatically registered for the luck modifier. The recipes for the items are registered by the unpackager if and only if there's a recipe package holder in there. So if I take that out, we see the recipe goes away. By choosing to not register the recipes through the unpackager, you can just straight up put an interface on the unpackager and register recipes as standard, processing recipes. That way, if you have to like double nest, triple nest, quadruple nest, etc., your packages, you're allowed to do so. So if you need more than 81 slots of input, like you can continue nesting your packages until you get 729 slots, or like that's for if you nest it one more cycle, etc, etc. You almost never have to do that in practice. But now if I order a luck modifier, it tells me I have a bunch of stuff I'm missing. All right, most of this is, I think I just need crafting recipes. A little bit of stuff we actually have to craft is the Botania metals. So why is this moving mana so slowly? Oh, I didn't put an augment on. If I don't put the dominant augment, it only pulls mana from one mana pool. With the dominant augment, there we go. It's able to pull mana out of all 25 mana pools of the mana battery, so that makes mana crafting very quick. And then, can I directly trade the blocks? Hey, I can. You trade them into Elementium blocks. Set up all the compressing recipes, and now we have enough Dawnstone, so we should be able to make all 20 of our luck modifiers. However, we ran into a problem. Apparently it takes a tremendous amount of emeralds. I mean, it is triple compressed, so I suppose 56,000. The issue is that I'm short 10,000 emeralds. Now, I'm short 10,000 emerald ore. I'm short 10,000 emerald ore, though, on the assumption that each ore only produces 2 emeralds. I found that I think we can probably get that value high enough that we'd actually just have enough, but I can't encode it such that way, because otherwise, if we ever fall short, right, planetary distance will whine at us forever. So by doing it in a sag mill, we get 2.25 by default, but by using a grinding ball, we get that a lot higher. A melodic alloy grinding ball doubles that 2 to a 4, and that 0.25 to something like 0.35 maybe, in that ballpark. So we get 3.35 per, and I think that just means that if I order 10, we'll end up with excess emeralds, and then I can order the other 10 afterwards. Which before we do that, let's look at how much neutronium we have. So 3,700 piles, divide that by 9 is, oh boy, 400-ish nuggets. Divide that by 9 again, it's like 30, a bit over 40, like 45 ingots. But we'll be spending about half of our neutronium so far on luck upgrades. All right, first 10, have at it. I think the only real step here that'll take time is sag milling all the emeralds. Yeah, even with a decent capacitance, it'll take a little bit. All right, well, nothing to do but let it do its thing. While that craft goes on, let's talk about the next project I want to do, which is ore processing. At last, right? So our void miners produce a lot of ores, and the rate that they produce ores is only going to go up. Of these ores, most of them we can probably just leave in ore form, honestly. For example, items that don't become singularities. Oops, I have to use this search bar. Singularity. Items that, ores that don't become these singularities, we might only need 10, 20,000 for the rest of the pack. And if it's that low, then, why spend effort processing what will inevitably be hundreds of thousands of ores just to not do anything with the ingots that result. So what I'll probably do is take or selectively choose of the ores, only the ones that we do need in large quantity. So we have 32,000 star metal ore. Guess what? We're not going to need 64,000 star metal ingots to finish a pack, right? This I am perfectly happy to process on demand. Ooh, we can get resonating gems from star metal ore? Dang, that's such a good deal. Resonating gems are annoying to make. Anyways, that was random tangent there, but yeah, like cinnabar ore, we'll just leave that in ore form, and if we happen to need a little bit of it, we'll process it on demand. That means of the ores we actually need to passive process. Let's just go through and in them real quick. I think Peridot's worth doing because that's used to make the ME components. Yeah, I'll go Galena, whatever. It's lead and silver. we'll leave it be. Like, even aluminum's probably not worth processing. But yeah, I'm gonna go through this and select out the ores that are actually worth processing. So instead of doing, 100 different ores, we do maybe 20, 30. Even among this subset of ores that I want to process, I'm not going to count these, but there's a couple different ways to process them. I'm going to use the industrial grinder as a default. I think it's the fastest of my machines, and it also has a tiny bit of bonus yield. I don't much care for the bonus yield, I just care that it's the fastest. So it takes 2 interfaces to stack all the various ores that I want to send through the industrial grinder. Let's take those and then set up a couple industrial grinders to service them. Maybe like 4. 4 is nice because 1 set of multi-blocks services 4 industrial grinders. Yeah, let's go big or go home. 8 industrial grinders. To simplify the wiring a bit, I'm just using fandom faces, such each one of these fandom faces is linked to one of the industrial grinders, because I don't really want to have to wire up 8 different blocks in, all these different locations. So anyways, Phantom faces then serve as a proxy for the phantom faces. We send items into there. I'm using integrated dynamics for it because it's just fast. Ender IO conduits get the job done as well, but you have to put a whole bunch of speed upgrades in places to make it work. So integrated dynamics it is. Anyways, the products that come out, generally speaking, are big dusts and some little dusts, various forms of little dust, but all the little dust goes into a compactor, which is exceptionally fast, which turns it into more big dust. And for now, I'm going to toss all the dust here into just a subnet. We'll later take these dusts and smelt them in one ginormous smelting array. But because the smelting array for all the different processing types can be shared, they don't have to, it doesn't have to, how do I describe it? They don't have to each sub-processing part does not need its own smelting array. So anyways, yeah, this is very fast. I think right now they're all probably latched to osmium. The fact that they do latch like this means that I either need some way to control what we extract or just process stuff faster than we produce it. The latter is my plan. Process everything faster than we can make it. All right. So anyways, that's the industrial grinder. Now some of these things, I think the next biggest group that we don't industrial grind, like Certus, we get 3 if we industrial grind. But if instead of that we enrichment chamber, we get 4. And charged Certus is a specialty here. We get 4 charged Certus, whereas if we industrial grind, it loses its charge. So for this, there's a handful of other ones. I think Nether Quartz is another one that's best to enrichment chamber. But yeah, for these, I'm going to pass them all through the enrichment chamber. So similar setup, but this time through an enrichment chamber. Total of 8 enriching factories then will process all this stuff. I think each individual enriching factory is, even with 7 slots, is actually slower than 1 industrial grinder, but whatever. There's less total stuff going through these anyways, right? Just less types of ore. So that covers that one. Oh, I guess coal might go through this one. No, I think coal is a special case. Yeah, coal is only 2 in an enriching factory. So coal is a special one where the industrial grinder produces a lot of, I guess thorium dust I care for. Coal dust is useless. Graphite dust is fine. You know what? Screw it. We'll put coal through the through this then. All right. Especially because we got tons of it. I was gonna say we can get higher yield from coal if we put it through the mechanical squeezer. That's like 6.5. I think that's about as high as it gets, but I don't need that much coal. And the various byproducts of processing coal this way are actually useful. So let's take our useful byproducts. The last 2 materials to process are diamond and emerald ore, and that I'm going through grinding ball side mills. For now, I'm just going to batch craft these grinding balls. They last a fairly long time. I think each one probably does like 20-ish ores. So if I craft, 1,000 grinding balls, well, that does 20,000 ores. And I, in total, I barely have over 20,000 ores. So every now and then I'll craft a couple thousand grinding balls just to avoid having to put the crafting card here. So anyways, that dumps its stuff into here. I suppose if I cared, I could throw out the cobble, but whatever. It takes up, 1 type and an incredibly low number of bytes. So all the stuff in this system, I think we can just present to our mainnet as is. So I'll just grab a storage bus and connect that up. Connect to this interface. Extract only, and plug it in. The stuff in this subnet, though, these are the dusts. All of this, then, I think we just smell. Is there any reason not to smell all the dust? There might be some of these, actually, that we don't care to smell. Like tungsten, I guess, smells differently. So maybe I'll expose all of this to the ME system as well with an interface, but then we'll take the various dusts that we need in dust, or that we need, or that are easy to smell, and then just run them through a smelter. Right, tungsten, yeah, like tungsten has to be run through a blast furnace. Oh no, tungsten can be smelted. But I'm pretty sure some of this stuff later we can't directly smelt. Probably. For the smelters, I'm going to use a bunch of Mekanism smelters. They are individually probably the fastest ones we have access to. I think these smelters are faster than the Techreborn ones, even with the upgrades for Techreborn. But this is a pretty nice look, by the way. It's very smooth. Anyways, 16 elite smelting factories should hopefully be able to keep up. They just dump their finished products back into the subnet that they came out of. And then I just have to list off specifically which dusts that I wish to smelt. So some dusts, like I think manganese here, I'm not smelting because manganese ingots don't do anything. The dust may even be more useful, but look at that, we're smelting up a whole bunch of titanium. There, as dusts get added to here, I'll probably just add them to, well, add a couple more interfaces here, but add them to that as they become available. So, let's see, we started setting up this order processing stuff to kill time so we could let our luck modifiers finish. Our first 10 are done. The next 10 will be much faster because the emeralds for them are already pre-crafted, right? Because my recipe said one ore makes 2 emeralds. Although I suppose because I had more than 100% secondary, I could have told it that 1 ore makes 4, because the second one, or I had more than 100% primary. The second one was guaranteed. But whatever, that, because that's now just a bunch of crafting steps, those next 10 should finish up very quickly. So let's swap these out now, and then take a look at how much energy you are using. Ooh, 400,000 RF a tick, as opposed to 200,000 in some. But now this thing, it's kind of tough to actually tell exactly how many ores it's producing. Maybe if I put a right here, will you prefer to put items? No, you won't. I was gonna say maybe he'll prefer to put items into the crate first. There we go. So each mining operation, we can see it produces more than 1 item. In fact, there was 10 items in one go there. Sometimes it still only gets 1. The average yield per piece of or per luck modifier, from what I've read, is about half an ore per operation. So 10 luck modifiers results in 5 extra average ores per operation, which comes out to 5x yield, I guess, versus before. So yeah, this thing now makes ores a lot faster. The other 10 luck modifiers are finishing up. I guess the crafting step still takes a little bit, but I'll drop them into our other miner when those are done. To hold all the items we're making, I put a bunch of pretty large discs in here. Now that we have very high item income, these discs, while not cheap, are still quite effective. I mean, we can afford to, you know, just make them in bulk if needed, right? Like if I needed 20 of them, yeah, so be it. I'm a little short on Certus, but yeah, I can make another 10 if needed. So we'll be using large storage disks to get around, mostly the fact that I don't have storage drawers. Drawers are just very convenient because they backfill individually. So, you know, they backfill an individual item, and you can optionally choose to void them individually. While you can emulate that behavior with other stuff, it's a lot of work to set up, and it's easier just to have effectively infinite size storage via ginormous storage cells. Alright, so our other 10 luck modifiers are almost on. One more. When that's done, I think I may as well upgrade our tier 3 void resource miner up to tier 5 as well, just to get more, well, resources, mostly obsidian. I even switched it to a black lens for more obsidian, and it's still not quite fast enough because it is, what, 32 ticks an op. Thankfully, the void resource miner, even at tier 5, uses a lot less energy than the void ore miner. What's missing? Let's just out of curiosity compare exactly how much they use. So for one, I'm not going to put the luck upgrades on this. It's probably just straight up both not needed and not worth the neutronium. 31,000 versus these are 435,000. So yeah, the three of these together then are using just about 900,000 RF a tick. You know those RTGs I was calling useless? Yeah, our average output probably exceeds our average input. Now, for one, I think upgrading our ore production by 5 times-ish probably means that our fuel production rate is higher than our fuel burn rate. Yeah, here's one, like LEU-235, this reactor, that's its only job, but it's incapable of keeping up. So I think we're going to have to see some knock-on effects from faster fuel production, and that'll be, you know, more reactors. So who'd have thought, right? Since a lot of these reactors are actually effectively the same, I think I'm going to redesign our fuel distribution a little bit. It doesn't really matter which reactor burns all of these lowly enriched fuels, as long as some reactor burns them, right? So I'll probably just set up a common lowly enriched fuel pool, and then pipe into with an ender chest, and then pipe into that so that all of these reactors can service the same pool of lowly enriched fuels. Let's actually just do that really quick. Okay, so 2 interfaces provide the raw fuels. Apparently, right now I have 10 types of low enriched fuel. I very nearly caused a disaster by putting one of the high enriched fuels in there. Like this entire tower on this side is all low enriched fuel, except this one. 511 heat. I was just absentmindedly, you know, just taking every fuel out of here and adding it to that. And this fuel, if I run it in one of my cryo lattices, probably melts it within 1 piece of fuel, which is, well, very bad. I definitely do not want a nuclear meltdown. It's not explosive, but it does destroy the reactor, and it is unpleasant to clean up. So, yeah, all the fuels go into a shared pool here, and then just whatever reactor is available takes whatever fuel is available and runs it. So with that, we might actually not have to add a reactor at this very moment. I think if all of our reactors work in tandem like they are, we should be able to process all of these fuels and avoid a backlog. I'll keep an eye on it. If it turns out we need more reactors, well, don't be surprised if at the start of next video there's like another 3 reactors, because that's kind of the theme of this series. These reactors for running the high tier fuels, I think, are still able to keep up just because by ratio we run a lot more low tier fuels than high tier stuff. So at some point we'll have to add more actively cooled reactors as well, but I think that's a later problem. And I'm a big fan of putting my problems off till later. The increased reactor uptime is actually enough to make up for the increased energy use, which I guess makes sense. I expect that those void miners, the fuel that, or the uranium and thorium that comes out of them, is enough to power themselves. So now that we're burning it more efficiently, we do net a small amount of energy. And hey, a small net positive is all the net positive we need. So on that note, why don't we wrap up here for today? All of my later problems can become our later problems. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.